Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never practice nunchucks in a crowded room. Never eat chole before a road trip. Always take your shirt off before you iron it. Don't take a call near a swimming pool. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
This is the season of full-on politics. There's a parliament session on with something as major as the budget to debate. There is a rejuvenated opposition. There is also a ruling party and the government, treasury benches, who were triggered. One thing we can say while we say that the opposition is rejuvenated, we also know that the BJP, India, but BJP in particular, they also know how to fight in parliament. So rhetoric levels are high. Within that rhetoric, there are some substantive points also made. So we will talk about all of that because a lot happened today. Finance Minister gave her reply in Lok Sabha on the budget to many of the questions that the opposition, including Rahul Gandhi, had raised. Also, others spoke. Anurag Thakur spoke from the opposition side. Akhilesh Yadav spoke. Importantly, also today, two important leaders of the government, one no less than the Prime Minister, and second, the Minister for Commerce and Industry, Piyush Goyal. They spoke at the CII conference over the budget. Now, I was present at that conference, so I heard that, and I have some takeaways from that. And D.K. Singh, our political editor, he's been watching Parliament proceeding all of the day, so he has his insights. With so much politics, we need more human resources here, and that's why we have D.K., the master no less. So D.K., what do you make of the state of play right now with all that's been said today, yesterday in Parliament?
And the two, three takeaways. First, I think Nirmala Sitharaman as a politician has come of age, I would say. I've never heard a political speech like this from her. Secondly,
it was quite spirited, I must say.
Very spirited.
I watched it now, very spirited and very emotional. You could see that the JU training is there.
Yeah, so generally you see that deadpan expression on her face.
Right.
Today she is very emotional, very charged. So that was one. Secondly, I think Rahul Gandhi as the leader of the opposition is being taken much more seriously than he was earlier. Of course, even now the attempt is to deride, to oppose him. But again, all the points he raised are being taken care of by the government. Third, I would say this boundary is becoming a kind of, or it is going to be the cornerstone of the political attack, I think, political counter.
What do you mean by what about re?
Well, you look at all the issues that she dealt with, from unemployment to inflation, to what you have done for farmers, legal MSP, whatever. So what did you do when you were there? So legal MSP is one of the major issues being raised by the opposition leaders. Today, she just goes back to 2006 when the Swaminathan Commission recommendation came. This is what Swaminathan Commission recommended. I mean, the MSP should be 50% more than the average, weighted average cost of production. This is what did you do? You did not implement that.
In fact, she says that she quotes from a government report, which says that government said at that point, UPA, that this will cause distortions in the market.
Yeah. So, confronting them there, on inflation, again, she's giving figures like during UPA 1 and UPA 2, average inflation figure was 8.8%, 8.1%. For the 10 years of NDA, it's just 5.1%. So, many figures on different issues, what you did, what we have done now. For farmers, again, she said, you gave loan waiver. Then she started quoting a CII report, which found many irregularities in that disbursement. She was talking about that. So, yes, on everything. On employment generation, for instance, she said during 10 years of UPA, only 2.3 crore jobs were created. In our 10 years in government, we have created over 12 crore jobs. So, again, what you did, what we have done. And that is, I guess, that is supposed to be, that is going to be the government system.
So this is now, they are setting it up as a comparison between their 10 years and the previous preceding 10 years. In fact, she said on inflation that under UPA, while they inherited a situation, a sound economy from Mr. Vajpayee, where inflation was 3.8%, in their first tenure between 2004 and 2009, it went up to 8.1% average, and after that until 2013 it mostly remained in double digits, she said. She said
Seriously saying between 2012 and 14 out of 28 months, for 22 months it was around 9%.
Yeah, it was 9% or over, so it was in the double digit ballpark. That she says. Now, when I listen to the Prime Minister, and we'll share a link of his speech to CII also with you, then what DK is saying is borne out by how the Prime Minister started. He started again with 2014. He did not start with 2019, from when he took over power the last time. He started with 2014 because he had to make comparisons with the UPA. And he said then India was counted among the fragile five, that his government issued a white paper showing what was wrong with India's economy as they had inherited from the UPA. He said there were lots of crises. And then he also said how India had scaled up. He said 2013-14, the last full budget of the UPA government, the size of the budget was 16 lakh crores. Now it is 48 lakh crores. It's gone up 3 times. Capex, he says, in 2004, that's when Mr. Vajpayee handed over the government to UPA, was 90,000 crores. In 2004, when Mr. Vajpayee handed over the government to UPA, it was 90,000 crores for the year. By the time the UPA finished its 10 years, it had become 2 lakh crores. So they took 10 years to take 90,000 crores to 2 lakh crores. Whereas under his government, in 10 years, it's gone up to 11 lakh crores. Again, he says, compared to the governments previous to it. So he's making all these comparisons with UPA. He says today railway budget is 8 times what it was under the UPA's last year. Defense budget is twice as much. Highway budget is 8 times. Agricultural budget is 4 times. And he says there are record budgetary increases. Taxes have had record decreases. And that is where he says that the growth that the UPA claimed, in fact, he has tried to puncture that growth. He has said that a very unhealthy person, an emaciated person, if the person gets sick, can get part of the body or maybe the entire body can get swollen, right? You see that swollen body, maybe it looks healthy from a distance, but will you call that a healthy body? So he's also trying to poke a snoop at the UPA's growth claims. And that is something that comes out in what Sitharaman also says. She says in their times, budget was done in a different way. Big announcements were made, etc., etc. Our budget is honest. In the Prime Minister's speech also, he says that they made announcements in their budgets about allocations to this, allocations of that, and they got their headlines. I quote him exactly. So उनको headline मिला और शायद थोड़ा share market में भी मिला होगा, which means stocks might have also gone up, but those claims were hollow. So DK, you are right, I suspect, and you always are, in saying that they are setting it up as a competition with UPA.
Yeah, even the caste census. I mean, she went back to Nehru's days, how Nehru opposed it then, how Rajiv Gandhi opposed it later. So everything is being compared to what Congress leaders in the past did or said. So that is one interesting thing in the reply to the budget, to the debate I found. There is a slight shift in the way they are trying to deal with this money at anything. If you recall, during election campaign, the Prime Minister had gone after Ambani and Modi. Gone after in the sense he had said that why has the Congress stopped talking about Ambani?
Tempo mein
cash leakage, how much black money did you get? You tell us. Basically, in a way, attacking Adani and Ambani, everybody was caught by surprise. Modi started talking about black money in the context of Ambani and Adani. Today, again, you heard Rahul Gandhi again calling them A1, A2. And then Nirmala Sitharaman in her speech there she is talking about, she did refer to this Vizinjam airport, seaport.
Seaport in Trivandrum.
Trivandrum, how it was a Congress government under Women Chandy, in fact even before that London had started, they were all involved. How they had done it, they didn't do anything. Communist government came, they went ahead with this, nobody objected to it. And now you're talking about Adani, and there she's adding, she's talking about a conspiracy to kill entrepreneurship in India. Okay, how efforts are being made to, how there is this negativism being spread against wealth creators, against entrepreneurs. So in a way, the government seems to be defending them now openly, because you see for the last 8-9 years when Rahul Gandhi started it, initially government was silent, largely dismissive. The government would not like to talk about it. In the election campaign, we saw a different thing. Now we see that reversal where the government is not shy of defending entrepreneurship and wealth creators. And again, there many people were questioning why Prime Minister Narendra Modi went to Ambani's son's wedding. He went there, and the government is defending it now. So I think there's a change in the strategy. There's no more back foot batting. You have to deal with them aggressively and in a very positive way.
Well, as a long-time supporter of freeing India's economy and economic reform, I would say it's a good sign that any government is willing to protect or speak for Indian entrepreneurial class, whatever the politics, right? And that is a change in India, because usually governments in India are shy of doing that. So now if this government is doing it, as Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman did, that's a welcome change. That's a little bit of opinion I'm slipping in. I will also take a couple of lines from what she used. She said there is a conspiracy to spread negativity for business. Part of the same conspiracy, she said, was to somehow paint entrepreneurship as a villain. And then she used the expression conspiracy many times. She said that there is a conspiracy against the armed forces, to divide the armed forces and to divide the soldiers. She saw that conspiracy in the attack on Agniveers. And she also said that there is a conspiracy to look at fault lines wherever those are available. But you are right, one of the more important takeaways was, and that's where you can see that a distinction is emerging between the Indie Alliance, or at least the Congress Party and Rahul, and the BJP. One side is attacking these two particular conglomerates, right? Because they are saying that these two personify a concentration of financial power. Whereas the BJP government now, the NDA government, is now coming up and saying, what's wrong? You gave a port to Adani by invitation. In fact, she used the expression by invitation, which means not by competitive bidding. You gave it by invitation, and that is carried on. Then nobody said A1, A2. So that's a shift in our politics, isn't it?
The first time I heard a senior minister, finance minister of course, but any minister defending Adani and Ambani in Parliament. Even when the Prime Minister spoke, Prime Minister never takes their claims in the House. In the last time he spoke during the election campaign, that was outside, that was in Telangana, not in the House. So I may be wrong, but if I collect it properly, it could probably be the first time that they have defended them so openly.
And plonked themselves on the side of Indian entrepreneurs, even if they happen to be conglomerates who are seen as oligarchs by their opponents. So that's a change.
So they also might have realized that, just ignoring it is not working. That opposition rhetoric against them may be kind of gaining some kind of traction on the ground. So that could be their assessment, and this response may reflect in that.
So what is it that you think the government particularly is triggered by?
Results, of course, and they are dealing with the results. So I was just listing out their concern. For instance, the issues which are hurting the government. And I just going by Sitharaman's speech and listed a few. Ambani and Adani spoke about. Secondly, they get unemployment. She spoke at length on this, comparing what the UPA did, what NDA did, and she is saying that the employment of Indian youth went up from 34% to 40 to 51% now. So the government is defending itself.
That's employability. That's the data point from economic survey.
Yes. Then third is of course Agniveer. It's Agnipath scheme where she's talking about the conspiracy that there is an attempt to divide our army and the soldiers. And there's a conspiracy behind this. So that's how she is defending Agniveer. Then fourth point, again, caste census. He spoke at length. What Nehru said, what Rajiv Gandhi said in the House. As before that, you heard like Rajiv Gandhi adding to what Anurag Thakur started. So he went to length on caste census.
So Anurag Thakur meant RG1 is Rajiv Gandhi, RG2 is Rahul Gandhi.
Yeah. And that also very interesting, where Sitharaman said that, okay, fine, our charity begins at home. So, Rajiv Gandhi Foundation, you have 9 members. There is not a single scheduled caste member there. Then say the Rajiv Gandhi Charitable Trust, on board of trustees, you have 5, not one is SC. So, basically, holding the mirror to the opposition on that. So, that was the fourth thing. Fifth thing in farmers. She did not talk about legal guarantee for MSP, but then she was talking about what the Congress did or what the UPA did or did not do. Fifth, of course, is middle class. The way she dealt with the issue of inflation and how this government has done much, much better. So that was there. And then one thing, this slogan about Kursi Bachao budget, that started hurting. And so she gave a long list from 2004 to 2005 budget onwards. How in the first budget, 18 states were not mentioned, 17 were not mentioned, next one's 16 not mentioned. In 2019 budget, she says 26 states did not find any mentioned. So there she was saying, you're talking about us just mentioning 2 states. All through we have also not mentioned states, most of the states. Her idea, in this speech, if you do not mention any state, it does not mean that you are not allocating resources to them.
And the other important thing, while the Prime Minister also said that there were these claims made or allocations made in UPA's budgets, which were never brought to reality. And he said very often they were not even able to spend what they had allocated. Right? The Finance Minister also in her speech said, and she particularly looked at oil bonds. Oil bonds, loans from small services schemes. And she said that you wanted to park your deficits away from the budget. So you used methods like subterfuge, like oil bonds, etc. So you parked your deficits elsewhere to make your budget look better. When we came to power, among the first things we did was to pay back the small savings schemes from the loans that had been taken from them.
What's an FCI?
FCI, that is for food. And then also oil bonds. And that we don't do any such thing. Whatever deficit we have, whatever we spend is on the budget. We don't do anything behind your backs.
Basically, that was the issue of transparency in the budget. The opposition said your budget is not transparent. And then she has got back. That's what you did.
But it was quite a spirited speech, and in fact, it was much longer than her budget speech. It's almost 30-35 minutes longer than her budget speech. This speech went on for an hour and 41 minutes.
Well, first time I heard the JNU being defended by a BJP
like this. Because she said that the TMC MP said that the previous finance ministers were Oxford, had PhDs, Oxford and Harvard, and she merely went to JNU. And she said, with me sits finance minister from West Bengal on the GST Council, and she said she makes a wonderful contribution. She's very smart. Her name is Sitharaman Bhattacharjee. She went to University of Calcutta. Mamta Banerjee went to University of Calcutta. The MP who raised this point also teaches in Indian college. So why are you undermining Indian colleges and Indian universities?
And she said JNU or any other Indian institution is not inferior to any Western university.
Right.
So anyway, that's a political point.
That's an important point. That also tells you that my algometer really matters to me, whatever the politics. In fact, D.K. on the Harvard-Oxford thing, she sort of pushed the knife deeper into the UPA and the Communist Party. She said, in the UPA, Finance Ministry was managed by Harvard and Oxford educated people. Obviously, she's referring to Chidambaram and Manmohan Singh, right? And she said they did not know that when they had given the stimulus in 2008, they did not know when to withdraw it. And because they did not withdraw it in time, that's when inflation became rampant and deficit also became rampant.
So we went back in history to see how it started from Indra Road, where the printing press was, and where the budget was printed, and how it's finally this entire thing shifted to the North Block, and then going into details like for instance, one official whose father passed away, but by then this thing had started where they had to stay in office, in North Block office, all through the budget preparation for 8-9 days. Nowadays, she said finally it's 4 days. So how the kind of sacrifice these employees, these officers make to maintain the secrecy of the budget. And then when it came to the photo op thing, the why finance minister goes and distributes she said it was just started in 2013 or 14. That's what really this practice had started by the UPF.
That's when Chidambaram was managed.
Yes.
Right. In fact, one reason this speech also became so long, one, it had a lot of rhetoric for sure, but also she addressed some of the other issues that other members had raised. For example, India's rankings, Global Hunger Index, for example. And there, again, its opinion, I might agree with her that some of these rankings do not make any sense to me as well. And that is something that I have said also in episodes of Cut The Clutter in the past. For example, Global Hunger Index. And she also raises the same question. How can India be ranked behind Sudan and Pakistan? And she said, Pakistan is a country, I want them to do all right. I wish them well. But they are struggling to get atta. They don't have enough food. And in this country, 80 crore people are given free food grains. So how can our ranking be poorer than theirs? And that is a flaw in what is called as Global Hunger Index that I have also spoken about, because this is really not a hunger index. This is in some ways a nutrition index. And they take nutrition indicators, and hunger index basically is clickbait. That's a way of getting the headlines. That said, the fact is that she took on these issues and talked about these in detail as well.
I think Akhilesh Yadav raised this Global Hunger Index in his speech. Some other papers might also have some importance.
What did you think of Akhilesh Yadav's speech? Because for him also it's a kind of parliamentary debut.
It was very good. His voice, his wit, humor. I think one of the best from opposition leaders ever.
And dignified.
Dignified, no rhetoric. So I would say as a parliamentarian he has come of age now. Politically also, how he is trying to change his party now. Basically reaching out to upper caste. I mean, trying to break that Muslim Yadav,
expanding it. So he's made a Brahmin chief of the party in the state.
Yeah. And, the number of seats he has won with Dalit MPs, OBC MPs, he has got many non-Yadav MPs now. So, he is expanding that base. With that political expansion also comes that confidence. And we saw that he was not unnecessarily going after the government. Totally factual, he was talking about infrastructure projects. He would say how his government actually allotted the land. After that, he was seeking trade for his own government. Also attacking the center, he would have done this. Many constructive suggestions also. So it was a very mature.
But he did take a crack at the government. He said BJP wale haath hi nahi jod ke milte.
Well, he was talking about Yogi Adityanath. There's this viral video clip, I'm sure most of you was to see. The Prime Minister was to meet the BJP Chief Minister. They were all sitting, and first Amit Shah followed by Rajnath Singh K. Yogi Adityanath was standing like this. After Amit Shah passed, then he folded his hands to greet Rajnath Singh. But he didn't do such thing to Amit Shah. Then again, the Prime Minister came. Again, he did not. All the CMs were kind of greeting the Prime Minister with folded hands. Yogi was not. So that went viral in the social media, and Akhilesh Yadav was referring to that.
I see.
That is, after your loss in the election, you're not even greeting anybody. He did not say Yogi, but he was just taking it back. Yes. But in our conversation, we have been talking about how the government seems to be irritated of the private sector. We saw a bit of it in the economic survey, but I would say it was the government's take. But otherwise, generally in speeches, you see ministers, BJP leaders kind of giving you a sense of impatience or irritation with the private sector.
Yes, you can see it. In fact, in the economic survey also, what came out was basically facts showing the government's frustration, because it's something that we've also been saying that it doesn't take any genius to notice this. We've also carried stories, others have also carried stories. International institutions, Indian institutions have all pointed out the fact that private sector in India is not investing. So they are not putting their money where their mouth is. They say great things about the government, fantastic, India, the fastest growing, etc., but they don't invest. And that's getting the government frustrated. So that frustration came out in the economic survey. In fact, in the economic survey, as a counter to that, and that is something we might talk about some other day, or maybe I might write about it, economic survey, I think mostly out of frustration, says that maybe India should open up and allow Chinese investments. That is very surprising, given our strategic equation with China right now in the standoff in East Ladakh. For Government of India's economic survey to say that we should now open the doors for Chinese investments, because so much seems to be the frustration with lack of Indian investments and also lack of FDI. That government now sort of has begun to show some desperation. So we saw today at the same CII conference where the Prime Minister had gone, Piyush Goyal, the Industry and Commerce Minister, had also gone, and you can see what he said. He says, first of all, it takes two to clap. दो हाथ से ताली बजती है, right? He says, दो हाथ से ताली बजती है, it takes two to clap. And he said, all of you want FTAs, free trade agreements, right? I can do them very quickly. But then each industry association comes to me and says, don't allow any imports in my area. So you want your stuff to be exported on zero duty, but you don't want imports in your own area. How does that work? That cannot work. And then he says, because if you abolish duties on this side, there will be no duties on that side also. He said, you people seem to think that you should be able to export without any duties, but there should not be any competition from imports in your field. Is this how FTAs are done? Good question, because that's been the approach of Indian business for a long time. I used to say at a time that Indian businesses' approach to economic reform is a bit like Indian males' attitude to women's liberation, that women's liberation is a great thing. All women should be liberated except those of my family, right? So it's a bit like that with Indian businesses also. And we know that in 1991 reform also, Indian businesses had set up a lobby. That was the Bombay Club. My late friend Rahul Bajaj headed it, and they pushed back at the reform. So he's showing the same irritation. And then he also says that even in our meetings, our important meetings, you people don't even come. He says CII has a representative who's been coming, but in the course of time, they lose interest. And he said FICCI and ASSOCHAM have not even been coming. So you can see that bit of irritation now coming out, because this government really needs the private sector to start investing. They also really need the FDI to pick up.
You also saw a glimpse of that in the finance minister's speech, where she said, there is a conspiracy, in fact, to send out this message to global investors that India is not safe for investments.
Yeah, she said that conspiracy to convey the impression that Indian institutions will not be able to protect your investments in India. DK, this is building up quite nicely, because one thing that this election has done is it's given us a real parliament. Because for a long time, particularly in the later half of the last Lok Sabha, the Lok Sabha elected in 2019, it was very easy to expel our opposition or basically shout them down and pass major bills just by yourself. So we didn't quite see that much debate. Now we are seeing it almost every day.
At least the government is trying to address the concerns. Earlier it was like the opposition, you want to say something, go ahead. Government will say what it wants to. Budget replies, you won't really see much reflection of what the opposition has raised. They'll go with their own speak or whatever they have to say. So now to me the government has realized that the issues that the opposition has been raising are currently getting some traction on the ground, and the results will reflect that, and that's why you see this attempt to address those issues, take them head on.
And in India, there is an election almost every day after tomorrow. Yes. So there is Maharashtra, Haryana, and Jharkhand coming up now. And that's why I would say that one big change in India after this election is that we have a robust parliament, and it also shows the robustness and strength of our democracy. So stay with us. This parliament session will be on. Prime Minister will also speak there, and we will keep talking about it. Please do also let me know if you like this format, because we do this occasionally, particularly when I think that I really need help. I draw in someone like D.K. Singh or any of our other specialists, but most of all D.K. Singh. Please do tell me if you like this format for Cut The Clutter. In that case, we'll do it a bit more often.